The Indiana Fever drafted a 6'4" sharpshooter with a 7-foot wingspan who looked like the exact missing piece their offense and defense needed to support Caitlin Clark. Then they buried her and stopped talking about her. Justine Pissott torched the New York Liberty in her preseason debut, giving Clark driving lanes nobody had seen all preseason, and within days she was suddenly injured and off the floor. Now Pissott is breaking her silence on social media, and what she's hinting at should make every Fever fan genuinely furious at Kelly Krauskopf, Amber Cox, and head coach Stephanie White. Do you think the Indiana Fever are holding Caitlin Clark back? Let me know down in the comments below.
The Indiana Fever appear to be up to their usual tricks. I told y'all something smelled fishy about this whole injury situation with Justine Pissott. It looks like she's taken to social media to air some things out.
3 preseason games, 3 different opponents, and the Indiana Fever got out-rebounded in every single one. That's not a rough patch. That's your roster telling you something is wrong. Against the New York Liberty, Indiana's forwards couldn't hold their ground on the glass. Not because Liberty outworked them, but because Indiana's bigs were already standing in the paint on offense. So when a shot went up, the defense was already in position and Indiana had no angle to attack the glass, especially given New York's length and size. Against the Dallas Wings, same story, same result.
In which the Indiana Fever, preseason or not, got absolutely crushed by what we believe is going to be one of the worst teams in the league. But I gotta tell you, when it was starters versus starters, it didn't turn out so well. It did not turn out so well. And many fans today are screaming from the top of the mountain what they've been saying since the draft. We got absolutely destroyed on the boards last night. Destroyed.
And then came the Nigeria game, and this one really stings because Nigeria isn't a WNBA franchise. They're a national team. The moment Aaliyah Boston sat down and Indiana's other bigs took over, Nigeria owned the boards. Monique Billings, Maisha Hines-Allen, Michaela Timpson, Damaris Dantas, none of them could stop it, and none of them were being asked to do anything wrong. That's the part that matters most here. Boston, Hines-Allen, Billings, Timpson, Dantas, all 5 of those players are traditional interior bigs who players is gravitating toward the basket, and opposing defenses don't have to make a hard choice. They just collapse inside and wait.
Aaliyah Boston not in the lineup yesterday, and this team got dominated on the glass 45-26. You add in AB's career average of 8 rebounds, we would have gotten dominated 45-34. Not going to win many competitive games like that. Can we luck out in the regular season and just beat up on some bottom tier teams? I'm sure. But when we come across the Las Vegas Aces of the world, the Atlanta Dreams of the world, the New York Liberties of the world, the Los Angeles Sparks of the world, well, now we need to start asking, are we tall enough to go up against some of these better teams?
A stretch 4 changes all of that. A stretch 4 is a forward who hits threes at a rate that forces her defender to follow her out to the arc. And when that defender has to follow her out, the entire interior opens up. Boston gets a clean post catch instead of 2 defenders already waiting. Driving lanes open on the weak side. The whole offense breathes. Without a stretch 4, teams can park their bigs in the paint, sag off Indiana's forwards completely, and just load up on Boston every single time she touches the ball in the post. That's exactly what New York, Dallas, and Nigeria all did, and it worked every time.
You have to have somebody at that 4 and 5 that is stretching the floor. All right, that's why I say all that. You have to have somebody at that 4 and 5 to stretch that floor, because the WNBA is literally turning into the NBA. It literally is, man. It's just too much talent to have bigs on the floor together that can't shoot. It's too much talent for that. The defense can just clog that paint, as we saw last night, as we saw last year. You know, it's going to continue to happen.
So the rebounding numbers are a symptom, not the actual problem. Because Indiana's forwards don't pull defenders away from the basket, Opponents pack the paint before the possession even develops, and when a shot goes up, the defense is already crowding the glass from inside. That's why Indiana can't get offensive rebounds. There's no space to attack because Indiana's own roster construction took that space away. Caitlin Clark averaged over 19 points and nearly 9 assists last season, and her entire game runs on space. She reads the floor at full speed, she initiates the pick and roll, she drives and kicks, and she pushes in transition before the defense can get set. Every single one of those things requires room to operate. When the paint is clogged before the play even starts, Clark can't get downhill, Boston can't get clean looks, and the offense stalls out in the half court against a defense that hasn't even had to work for it. 3 games, 3 opponents who figured out the exact same answer, and the front office's response has been to add more guards.
Tall enough to go up against some of these better teams. The answer that I see, and I've been saying this all offseason, we need more. We need more size. We need an adequate backup to AB. We need a starting caliber power forward. And the Indiana Fever and the Indiana Fever media, they're running cover for this Justine Pissott injury. Justine Pissott comes out and says, don't believe everything the media says.
So Indiana's answer to getting out-rebounded by 3 straight opponents was to build a roster with 7 guards. 7. Clark, Raven Johnson, Lexi Hull, Kelsey Mitchell, Sophie Cunningham, Tiasha Harris, and Shatori Walker-Kimbrough are all sitting on this projected. White has too many players at every guard spot, so there's no easy cut. But no matter how you shuffle those 7 guards around, you still wake up the next morning without a forward who can shoot, and that problem doesn't fix itself just because you have talented backcourt depth.
A lot of people were pointing out the Fever wanting to have this short squad. This team's got no length. None. Justine Pissott, she may not even make the team. We're starting to wonder, does Stephanie White want her on the team or not? Right here, of course, it was a 95-80 game, 45 rebounds to 26.
Coach Stephanie White's solution to this, at least publicly, is to move Clark into a small forward role and get her playing more off the ball. On paper, that sounds like a way to manage the guard logjam. Clark pushed back on that directly, saying she's the best transition player in the league, and honestly, she's not wrong. Her entire game runs on reading the floor before the defense gets organized, initiating the pick and roll with the ball in her hands, and getting downhill in transition before anyone can stop her. Moving Clark off the ball doesn't solve a spacing problem. It just takes away the thing she does better than almost anyone in the WNBA right now. Think about it this way. You don't ask a quarterback to play wide receiver because you drafted too many wide receivers. You fix the roster. Clark's comments about staying a transition player weren't just personal preference. They were a tactical argument about what actually works. And 3 preseason games just proved her right.
I think mostly on dead balls, like I think I'm the best transition player in the league. That's where I thrive. Everybody knows that's my game. So, getting the ball off of rebound or in transition, that's probably when I'm going to be the primary ball handler more than anything. And then,
Raven Johnson did some real things in the Nigeria game. It's worth saying. Her length and full-court defensive pressure created tempo and gave Clark some off-ball windows that other guards can't generate. Johnson is a genuinely disruptive defender who changes the pace of a game. But Johnson pressuring the ball 94 feet from the basket is not the same thing as a 4-man pulling a defender to the arc, so her presence helps the team's energy without touching the spacing problem at all. The front office seems to believe that guard depth protects Clark and gives White flexibility. What it actually does is guarantee that the 4 spot stays in the hands of players who can't shoot from outside, and every minute going to a 7th guard is a minute not going to a forward who could fix what 3 preseason opponents already exploited.
I don't think people understand. 6'4" snipers don't grow on trees.
White wants Clark to adjust to the roster they built. Clark is publicly saying the roster needs to work around what she does. Given what happened against New York, Dallas, and Nigeria, one of them is clearly right, and it isn't the coach. There's already a player on this roster, a 6'4" shooter, who could end the argument entirely. And what the front office is doing to her right now is infuriating.
Justine Pissott is huge. Like, if you've been looking at any of the drills, Justine Pissott is huge.
Justine Pissott is 6 feet 4 inches with a 7-foot wingspan, shot over 40% from 3 at Vanderbilt. And in her first preseason game, she did something none of Indiana's other forwards have managed all preseason. She dragged defenders out to the arc and gave Clark actual room to operate. That's not a small thing. That's the entire problem Indiana's been losing to for 3 straight games, and Pissott solved it in her debut.
She's a very difficult matchup. You put your guard on her and you try to deny her on the perimeter so she can go down on a low block and post you up. You put your big kid on her so she can't post you up, and she's going to buy you off the dribble. She's a nightmare.
Growing up, the more and more people know that I'm a shooter, I need to do other things instead of just being able to shoot. I would also spend hours and hours working on ball handling. And when everyone's out partying or whatever, I'd always have to make sacrifices to work in the gym and get better.
It's her love for the game. She is really just a great worker. Her offensive game is outstanding. She's the best shooter that I've ever coached.
At Vanderbilt, Pissott wasn't a big who occasionally drifted out to the three-point line and got lucky. She was a consistent perimeter shooter from the 4 position, long enough to guard multiple spots, and skilled enough that Indiana drafted her to fill a specific gap in their roster. This wasn't a charity pick or a project. The Fever selected her because she does something their front court cannot do, and the Liberty game proved that the moment she stepped on the floor. That 7-foot wingspan does real work on defense too. At the 4 position in the WNBA, that kind of length means she can contest a shot without abandoning her assignment, switch onto a guard in pick-and-roll coverage without getting blown by, and rotate to protect the rim without needing to be a traditional shot blocker. She makes offenses
versatility to the game.
16 points on the night, and book it for the Fever, knocks it down.
When Pissott played against the Liberty, the change on offense wasn't subtle at all. Her defender couldn't sag into the paint because Pissott was a genuine shooting threat on the perimeter, so that defender had to follow her out, which opened up space in the post for Boston, which gave Clark clean driving lanes on the weak side. One player, one chain reaction, and suddenly Indiana's offense looked like what it's supposed to look like. Nobody else on Indiana's current front court can do that. Offensive shape of a WNBA lineup in her preseason debut, that contract decision is genuinely hard to explain. Can't shoot from outside.
I feel like they're lying about this injury because they're hiding her. I just got to keep it real. I got to keep it real. And let's take a look at what Justine Pissott also had to say. She said, let's not always believe the media, with the puzzle face. Now, I don't know necessarily what she means by this, but she could be saying, hey, we can't believe what the Fever are putting out there in the media. I'm fine. I can play. She came out and let us know. I don't care about no developmental contract.
And then the injury appeared. Pissott went from her best game to suddenly being listed out with a lower leg injury, no timeline, no real details, and nothing useful from Krauskopf or Cox beyond vague statements that don't answer the obvious questions. Then Pissott started posting on social media, and it wasn't the usual staying positive and grinding content. She's hinting that what's being reported publicly isn't the whole story, and she's doing it deliberately enough that it reads like a message aimed directly at the front office. If the injury is real,
I feel like the Indiana Fever are lying about Justine Pissott's leg injury. I feel like they are hiding her because they don't want to commit to giving her a full contract to be on the 12-player roster. They want her to be on that developmental contract. And I think that they know, after that game 1 versus New York, they know that if this girl continues to log minutes in these games, somebody is going to covet her. Somebody is going to snatch her off of.
While all of this is playing out with Pissott, Cameron Brink's name keeps coming up in trade discussions around the Fever, and it's not hard to see why. Brink is a forward who shoots threes, defends multiple positions, rebounds, and protects the rim without turning into a liability when the play spreads to the perimeter. She's not a traditional plant-in-the-paint center. She steps out to the arc and still gets back in time to contest inside, which is exactly what Indiana's entire front court currently cannot do.
Is Cameron Brink available? Is there a Damaris Dantis and a first-round pick for a Cameron Brink available? Is there a Damaris Dantis and 2 first rounds for Cameron Brink Is there a Damaris Dantas and Michaela Timpson for Cameron Brink trade? I'm just asking questions. I'd take Cam Brink as a backup 5. I'd take Cam Brink. But you ready for something even better? Cam Brink at the 5, AB at the 4.
Her fit next to Aaliyah Boston is worth thinking through carefully. Boston does her best work when she catches the ball in the post with one defender on her, not 2. And Brink's perimeter shooting forces at least one of those defenders to follow her out to the three-point line. That's not a minor tactical tweak. That's the difference between Boston catching the ball and going to work versus Boston catching the ball and immediately getting doubled before she can even turn to face the basket. Indiana has watched that second scenario happen all preseason, and Brink is one of the few players in the league who fixes it without requiring a complete offensive overhaul. For Clark, Brink's presence would create driving lanes that don't exist right now, cleaner reads off the pick and roll, and more room to push in transition before the defense gets organized. Brink can trail the play and spot up at the arc, which gives Clark a release valve on drives that none of Indiana's current forwards can provide because they're all already standing inside when the ball gets moving.
AB would be mauling most of the power forwards in this league if she's going up against 4s. Defensively, it would help us out having a real rim protector that can swat shots at the rim like Cam Brink. It would help us rebounding-wise to have another big next to AB to help clean up the glass. Cameron Brink running the floor with a pass from CC. Ooh, I like to see that.
Getting Brink isn't free, though. Trade packages circulating around her include genuine tension Krauskopf and Cox have to weigh. But Brink isn't a gamble on potential. She's a proven player who addresses a documented weakness, and that's a different kind of decision than trading picks for someone unproven. Brink's defense matters beyond just the spacing conversation, too. Indiana's current bigs can't switch onto guards or cover ground in space, which becomes a real problem against any team running heavy pick and roll or operating through a skilled point guard. Brink can switch, she can cover ground, and she doesn't give up easy baskets when she gets isolated in space. That's 2 separate problems she solves at once.
The Fever front office need to make some cuts and trades expeditiously. That was painful to watch. I hope CC is not re-injured. If you can't find some rebounds, there won't be many wins this season. We need more size. Maisha Hines-Allen, she's not size. She's strong. She's thick. She ain't tall. She ain't a rebounder.
Pissott and Brink aren't an either-or conversation either. A roster with Pissott on a standard contract and Brink acquired through trade would give Indiana 2 forwards who can shoot from outside, and defenses would have no easy answer for Boston in the post. But if Indiana trades real assets for Brink while letting Pissott walk on a development contract, they paid full price for something they already owned. Clark is 24 years old. Boston is entering her prime. Mitchell, Hull, and Cunningham are all proven contributors who've earned their spots, and the talent sitting on this roster is genuinely good enough to compete for a championship. Windows like this don't stay open forever, and Krauskopf and Cox are making roster decisions right now that will determine whether this one ever fully opens.
I swear to God, if y'all keep Damaris Dantas and cut Justine Pissott, y'all are so damn incompetent. Woo! Fire the Fever front office and Stephanie White. It is going down. That was painful to watch. I hope Cece was not re-injured. And you want to sell tickets? Nobody wants to watch Stephanie White's show.
If Pissott ends up on another team's standard roster because Indiana sat on her development contract too long, whoever claims her gets a 6'4" three-point shooter with a 7-foot wingspan who already changed the offensive shape of a WNBA lineup in her preseason debut. Indiana handed that player to a conference rival and got absolutely nothing back for it. Another team's front office gets smarter while Indiana's gets exposed, and fans will watch Pissott pull defenders away from the paint for someone else's star player while Boston keeps getting doubled before she can even catch the ball. What makes the Pissott situation so hard to watch is that this isn't a gray area. Some roster decisions are genuinely complicated, where you can see both sides and understand why the front office went the direction they did. This isn't one of those. The preseason laid out a specific, measurable problem. No stretch four, no floor spacing from the forward position, no way to stop defenses from loading up on Boston every single time she touches the ball inside. Pissott is a specific, measurable answer to that problem, and keeping her on a development contract while the problem keeps showing up on the scoreboard isn't a strategy anyone can defend with a straight face. Clark has done everything asked of her. She's talked publicly about adjusting her game, about playing off the ball, about working within whatever system White wants to run. She's not the one causing problems here. She put up over 19 points and nearly 9 assists per game last season and came back ready to work. And the front office's job is to build a roster that lets her do that, not one that actively works against it. Do you think the Indiana Fever are holding Caitlin Clark back? Let me know down in the comments below. Like, subscribe, and turn on all notifications so you never miss out. Click the video on the screen, and we will see you in the next one.